everybody. So we're so excited today. We are here to talk about the biggest, most epic comic book movie, MCU film of them all. We are here to talk about Avengers Endgame. It's very exciting. And I'm joined by my very good friend Trevor from How to Love Comics. And last time we talked was when we were talking about Captain Marvel. So this is really fun to get back together to talk about.
Yeah.
Endgame.
Hi, everybody.
Yes. And why don't you remind everybody, maybe their first time listening, what it is you do as far as your site?
Yeah, no worries. So it's all about helping people in their comic book reading journey. So whether they just started thinking about starting comics to a little bit down the line and sort of still getting a bit confused about comics. It's all about taking the confusion out of comics with tips, reading recommendations, lists, and all that kind of thing as well.
Mm. Yeah, and you guys should totally check out his site. It really helped me because I definitely felt overwhelmed when I first started my journey, I guess, reading comics. And so it was pretty overwhelming and it was very helpful. So definitely check out, and you cover all of the comics. So it should be really fun. And I'm still hopeful that we can sometime cover Shazam. I think we'd have a really good discussion, but it just was too toxic. But we'll try our best. But we're excited to talk about Endgame. So
definitely.
Let's kind of give her a little reminder of our thoughts about Infinity War going into this movie. We have our podcast that we did on Infinity War, but remind us all, what was your sort of response to Infinity War?
Yeah, no worries. So I've probably seen Infinity War 2.5 more times since then. And it still holds up for me. It was very enjoyable, but especially when I watched it in the cinema for the very first time, we got to the end, and it was like I was so highly tense, and then it was like the final battle. I was like, oh, what's going to happen here? How are they going to finish this? And then to have the snap, and it's like, oh my god, how are they going to sort this out? There's going to be another movie, because there was always that talk that like they were very coy, saying it wasn't going to be a 2-part movie. So it's like they're going to fix this all up in one movie, but obviously not. They lied to us, and they tricked me at least.
They had originally called Infinity War Part 1 and Infinity War Part 2, and then they changed it and like, oh, it's not going to be a 2-parter or whatever. And so yeah, they did kind of try to pull a bait switch there. Yeah. So my thoughts about Infinity War is that I really had fun with a lot of aspects of it. I really liked the various sort of couplings that they had. I really liked Doctor Strange and Tony. It was really fun. I really liked Star-Lord and Thor together. They were great.
Yes.
Yeah, and so just the little sort of moments, I thought they did such a good job of giving almost every character sort of a moment to shine. When Thor comes down in Wakanda, that was incredible moment. Yeah, and I really liked how it wasn't just Thanos that was hard. It was like everyone was hard, like all of his goons and stuff. Because some of them, it's like, why are we wasting our time with these goons that are just so easily kind of disposable? And I thought these ones were really tough, and took 3 or 4 Avengers to get these goons down, let alone Thanos. And so it really built the tension well. The only problem I had with it is I felt that the action became kind of repetitive to me and got a little boring. And I felt like the big emotional moment wasn't really earned. And because I knew that they were all going to come back, I was just so sure of it. Obviously, because you have Peter Parker, vanishing, and you have Black Panther vanishing. And I mean, come on. It was just so obvious that was, I don't know, it just fell flat for me, because I just feel like, how can I care about something that's so obviously fake and false and phony?
Oh, definitely, yeah. There's always going to be something that's going to correct it somewhere or another. Because you got Black Panther 2 is eventually going to happen. You got Doctor here. You can't.
Yeah, but I knew that it wasn't the real ending, and so I wasn't really that upset about it, because this was just the halfway ending. But it kept me from just loving it like a lot of other people. So I think I was like a B, maybe a B-. I was somewhere around there for Infinity War. I definitely liked Black Panther better personally than Infinity War. So that was just me last year. But yeah, so now coming to this one, I thought it was interesting, because I was coming to Endgame and thinking, boy, if they just bring everybody back, then I'm going to be really annoyed. Like if there's no stakes kind of at all. And it's funny because they kind of did that, but but I really really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was such a great ending to this arc of these 22 movies, which I've been very invested in. I've been a defender of the MCU, even the films and a lot of other people. I may not find them to be fresh. I may not think they're great movies, but I don't personally think the MCU has made a Batman and Robin or Superman 4 or that level of mistake. Would you agree?
I'd agree. Yeah, there's a couple that are a bit flat, like say, for instance, Incredible Hulk or Thor: The Dark World. But overall, it's floating above water, definitely.
Yeah.
There's no real Batman versus Superman kind of very polarizing movie in there. They're all sort of you either you're indifferent to love them kind of thing.
Because even Thor: The Dark World still has Loki, still has Thor, still has the loss of their mother, it still has stuff that's pretty good. I think that fight is fun.
Yeah, I think it was also expectations as well.
Yeah,
that's the problem with with sequel. You gotta sort of meet those expectations and then better them as well. And they obviously just didn't do that. We were introduced to like Asgard in the first one and the charm of everything, and then it sort of like didn't quite stick the landing at the same time when you still have to sort of raise those stakes.
Yeah. And it's a flawed film mostly because the villain is just such a snooze, but it's still, I just don't think it's awful like some people might think. But anyway, they had all of these characters that we has been spending all of this build up for, that if you're a fan, you really love. And all of these movies all building up. And I personally love time travel stories. So I kind of knew that I was going to love this movie. I love like Days of Future Past. It's just one of my all-time favorites. And I know people are like, oh, wait, what about this? What about this? What about this? But I actually thought they did a better job in this movie than Days of Future Past of kind of explaining the convoluted rules of the time travel. I thought they did a really good job. And
they did, yeah.
Yeah. And I just really enjoyed it. I felt like every moment I was earned and I had a smile on my face and I cried and I laughed, and I've seen it 3 times already, and I just love this movie. I think it's so good. And I don't know, what were your overall thoughts about Endgame?
I really enjoyed it. It had, like you were mentioning about the ending, we'll talk about it a bit more in detail, but I like the fact that there was some kind of finality to it. Superhero storytelling, because it's always this ongoing story, ongoing plots, or sometimes they find it difficult to actually end things, and like especially characters to have like a final story and have some kind of satisfying ending. This actually did a quite good job of having a satisfying ending with particular character threads, but then also pushing new other characters forward as well. We'll also see them in the future in exciting new ways. And just the action, it was a very enjoyable action, and you get a lot more. It was a bit more character focus in the Infinity War as well, I find, and that was quite satisfying, especially ending some of these character stories as well, having proper character arcs and having redeeming character arcs. Even someone like Scott Lang, who's a bit of a jerk and annoying to some people, he did a really good job as well of actually playing an important role and not just being the guy who cracks jokes.
He saved the day. He was the hero. Him and that mouse were the hero.
Oh, yeah. Who had the mouse get in that car anyway?
I don't know.
The window crack open.
I think it's an old car. Must have. But anyway, so obviously this is going to be a huge spoiler podcast. So if you haven't seen Endgame, don't listen to the podcast, I guess, unless you don't care about spoilers. So we are going to go through, this is going to probably be a pretty long podcast because we're going to go through, it's a 3-hour movie, but we're going to try our best to kind of streamline it, go through some of these points fairly quickly, and share with us, if you're listening, share with us your thoughts, what you thought of the different choices that they made, and we're open to all points of view on this channel in this podcast. So as long as you're nice. Okay, here we go. So it starts out with this opening sequence with Tony and Nebula on the ship, and they are running out of fuel, and he's sort of giving his sort of last goodbyes to Pepper and to everybody, and they're going to die the next morning. But then we get Captain Marvel appearing and saving them. How did you feel about sort of that opening sequence?
Yeah, it's interesting because they played it quite heavily in the trailers. So I thought that it might be like a larger part of like Tony Stark's character arc as opposed to just being the opening 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it is interesting in that you can't really. There's not a lot you could actually show in this movie. They wanted to keep it for the trailers to keep it under wraps. So the first 5 minutes they put a lot of importance in that, making it sound like it was going to be. That could have potentially been 3/4 of the way through the film. So it's quite interesting to sort of see they wrap that up pretty quickly and move on to get everyone's ducks in a row almost. But it gave some emotional weight to it as well, which then plays over later in the movie, which I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, they did a really good job on the trailers of this movie of only showing like the first 15 minutes. It was really good.
Yeah, there's like the first 15 minutes and then there's that bit where they walk along like, in a row in the suits, but you have no idea what that is. There's no real context for anything.
Like, I think we all kind of knew that it was the quantum realm and that time travel would be involved because, of course, like how else are they going to bring people back from the dead? They don't have resurrection qualities, any of them. So, of course, it's time travel. But as far as just any of the plot particulars, I thought they did a great job with the trailers. And for somebody that was kind of mixed on Infinity War, they did such a good job of hyping me and getting me excited. And I was surprised how little they actually ended up using Captain Marvel, because I was a little bit nervous after Captain Marvel, even though I enjoyed the film well enough, that I was worried that she was just going to be kind of save everything. She was going to be this easy out. And I thought they used her pretty judiciously.
Yeah, they did. They used her like very judiciously. She wasn't too overpowered. And when she did come into the fight, she was, very much even-handed with Thanos as well. And the way that they used her to sort of save the day with Tony was a good sort of bit, because it sort of it moved the plot forward as well. But also she had the good character moments, where, for instance, when she meets Thor for the first time as well.
Yeah. So then they have this whole confrontation where they find Thanos, and he tells them, "I am inevitable." And he tells them that he's destroyed the Infinity Stones, and he almost killed him to destroy them, but that's what he did. And then we do get the line of, "My father's many things, a liar is not one of them," from Nebula. And this movie was definitely Nebula's shining hour after being not my favorite in a couple of movies. I really didn't like her in Guardians Volume 2. And but she was really good. Really, really good.
Yeah, she was. She was a big surprise because she had played such a role in this movie, like large role in this movie.
Yeah.
Because she's always been sort of that character in the background, not really done much apart from maybe a couple of fights here and there. But no, she gave, like, I actually cared for her as well, which is surprising because I didn't really care for her, like you said, in the other movies.
Yeah, Karen Gillan did and I'm not been a big fan of hers. But
really?
Yeah, but she did a really good job. So she won me over. So good job, Karen.
Oh, good.
But she was a little too like snivelly in some of them, like I'm the bad guy, kind of a thing. And it was
especially in Guardians.
Yeah.
I remember there's one bit where she sort of yells at somebody and turns around, does like a really sort of fashion model catwalk, prancy kind of walk off and being, I'm really angry and walk off as well.
Yeah.
But I was just remember watching it. Oh, that's a bit on. Actually, she did really good.
Yeah, she was really, really good. And so Thor ends up killing Thanos. and you can just tell it's like such a, I don't know, such a devastating moment for the character. And we're going to talk a lot about Thor and what they do with Thor in this, but I kind of liked that they didn't have Carol kill Thanos, that it ended up being Thor. It's so surprising. It's such a surprising way to start out the movie, because you're thinking that he's the big villain of the movie, and he's just had this, oh my gosh, he's dead. What's going to happen next?
Dead, yeah.
So good.
I thought, well, are they going to introduce somebody else now, and it's going to sort of help reverse it? Is like Kane the Conqueror, is a time traveler going to be involved?
Yeah.
But no, it's very surprising, especially when the sort of the head comes off. It's like, whoa, what the hell? How are they going to get out of this one?
Yeah, I am inevitable. It was so good. And when they came up with the big screen 5 years later, were you super surprised by that?
I was, yeah. It's because I always thought, 5 years of jump into the future is a long time, especially since a lot of these movies are very much being set in real time in the past, and they definitely reference that with like when they go back to the time of Guardians of the Galaxy. It was 2014. They actually referenced that, not like it was like 3 weeks ago, kind of thing, like some kind of sliding timescale. So it'll be interesting, especially when they sort of post this movie, how they sort of handle that. If everything's going to be sort of set, I guess, 2024, and everything going forward. So if they just have a whole bunch of things set in 2024, so they sort of catch up or something, maybe.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I gasped. I was like, whoa, 5 years. I don't know. I was not expecting that. And just the overall sort of feel of this beginning just really drew you into these characters, and you were really feeling, 5 years of dealing with this failure. That's a lot.
It is, yeah, because superhero storytelling, it's like they might fail, but they always fix it, and it's always fixed, within that same week. So to have like 5 years of that, like you said, yeah, it's a long time to deal with something like that.
Yeah. And so Tony is the only one. It's interesting because Tony is the one that's actually managed to transition from this darkness into a happy spot with Pepper and with his daughter Morgan. And they have some really cute scenes with him and Morgan. And the little girl was adorable. And she tells him, I love you 3,000. It was so cute. And did you buy that with Tony and Pepper and that kind
I did, yeah, because him and Pepper, it's not like they just put the relationship in there for no reason or anything like that. There's had some evolution throughout these 10 years of movies. So it's actually then that next natural step after getting married, you have a kid. And so 5 years' time, that worked for me. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, they broke up in Civil War, and then they got back together at Spider-Man Homecoming. And as soon as they got back together, I was like, oh, it's going to be I thought for sure he was going to die in Infinity War, because I figure you can't have, as soon as he's going to get happy, it's going to be like, oh, no, that's
yeah. It's like those movies where the cop has like 1 week to retirement. He's the one to get shot.
Right. Yeah. And so then Steve is doing these therapy groups, and he's kind of getting people to talk, and you have one of the Russo brothers there talking about his date that he went on.
I didn't even realize I was one of the Russo brothers.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't pick that up.
Which was funny, because if half the people were gone, that's kind of funny that like just one of them. That's sort of funny. And they tried to claim that it was like the first gay moment in Marvel, and I'm just like, give me a break. That doesn't count. Some little side story that was sweet, but don't try to make it more than it is. Don't try to make it some victory for I don't know.
No, you definitely need like a leading character.
Yeah.
To really push. Otherwise, it's sort of.
Yeah. So anyway, he's trying to motivate them, trying to help them, but you can see it's sort of weighing on him. And then you have Natasha, who is trying to still operate SHIELD. You can tell that's where her sort of value and family and meaning in life is, in SHIELD. And so that's pretty touching, I think. And I think that Scarlett Johansson does a really good job in this movie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed her in this movie. I'm very 50-50 about Scarlett Johansson in general.
Okay.
Don't know really why. She just irks me sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But no, she did a really good job in adding this like additional emotional weight. It's like she obviously feels like there's a lot on her shoulders. And she did a really good job in actually showing that as well, especially when she's holding those little conferences, with the hologram, with the people in different locations. And she obviously, she very much felt like a lot of this was her responsibility as well, which was, I think, was quite believable.
Yeah, and I don't know, you just felt that she was just trying to keep some semblance of something together, and so it worked for me. I liked even when she's saying, if you tell me to cheer up, I'm going to throw this sandwich in your face. That was fun. And so then we find out about because Rhodey is there. Rhodey tells her about Barton, about Hawkeye, that he has become this vigilante because everybody in his whole family was vanished, and he's out just killing all of these. I think in his mind, he's killing all these bad people, so he's somehow valid because like, why should these bad people live when my family got vanished? Why that's
Yeah,
what's the justice in that? But I think they could have done a little bit better of explaining that.
I think so too. Yeah, I think it was sort of, yeah, it wasn't explained well. It was sort of, it was very much left up to interpret your own interpretation in the end.
Yeah, because it was
It
just
could
kind of
just been
like,
like what, just
yeah,
need that one line of dialogue almost, even just to just explain it, to justify it.
yeah.
Even though it's not really a justifiable action, it would sort of at least make a bit more sense
Yeah.
logically.
Yeah, because she watches him kill that guy in Tokyo or whatever, and it's like, okay, come back with the group. You're forgiven. You're fine.
Well, I mean, she
Sort
was an
of.
assassin herself, I guess. So,
Yeah.
I mean, she's like, oh, I remember this. I know what you're doing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they could have done a little bit better job with that. It felt like they
Yeah,
kind of just gave him a pass a little bit too much of, but it wasn't.
I think so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think maybe the circumstances that they just need the guy, and it's like, well, we'll do this later.
Yeah. So then we find out that Thor has become an alcoholic, and he's there with Korg and the other guy, I forget the other guy. And and a lot of people had issues with this because he's chubby Thor, but I will defend chubby Thor forever because he's the one who killed Thanos, and he completely failed in saving anybody or really doing anything that mattered. I mean, he came down in Wakanda and he failed. And throughout the course of the Thor movies, he has always covered up tense situations with being kind of the butt of the joke. That's what he's always done. I mean, if you think even back to the first movie, him being that fish out of water kind of character and being funny, that's his personality. So to me, it makes a ton of sense that especially that character would turn to alcoholism, turn to letting himself go. And yeah, they took some cheap blows at his physique or whatever, but
Yeah.
I think that mostly that was Rocket, and Rocket's a punk. So I was actually fine with it, and I felt like when he gets Mueller, I think it's called Mueller, when he gets his hammer and he looks at it like, I'm worthy, and you could see that like the light in his eyes that he hadn't felt worthy for all of that time. I thought it was one of the most emotional moments of the whole movie to me.
I thought when he's going to get the hammer back, that he'd put it up in his arms up, lightning would come down, and he'd get rock hard abs again.
But I'm glad
like
I'm glad they didn't do it that way. I would have been less into it, because if he had some makeover of some kind, then I think it would have been less impactful, because it's just himself, who he is.
Yeah, he's not living with his decisions.
Yeah. So I kind of liked that he didn't really have that moment, and we'll talk about it. But the ending with Thor, I was just, yes, I was so excited. But I know a lot of people didn't like it. How did you feel about it? Did you feel like it was too silly, or what do you think?
I mean, there was a bit of a silliness to it, the way that they sort of like the reveal and maybe Rocket, yeah, a couple of bit too many sort of low blows.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand where people are coming from in that sense. Um, but yeah, I think there needs to be something like it was obviously he had this bruised ego, he had the like he's taking it very to heart. It
Yeah.
was like this, he's meant to be like the most masculine of all of all the heroes, and sort of to be able to not actually save the day to actually achieve what he wants to achieve is very much a blow to his masculinity, and this him giving up essentially. It's like this. It's a sort of like where Batman gets his back broken. It's all about the rise
Yeah.
again, sort of, and that's how they're sort of done it with him.
Yeah, because they kind of showed all the different ways that you can respond to something like this. You have Barton who's getting angry and wanting revenge, and you have Natasha who's just kind of keeping things going and trying to keep as much similar as possible. You have Tony who's just used it as a source of reinvention and rebirth almost. And so you have all these different responses, and it makes sense that one person out of the group is going to basically turn to alcohol and become an alcoholic. Like if half the people in the world died and I felt like I was responsible for that, yeah, I probably would be. I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
really
everyone responds to grief very differently as well. So
right.
just to show the different ways. When you got so many characters,
Yeah.
It's what you do. You show grief in different ways because everyone reacts to it differently, and that's just the way that Thor happened to react to it. And it's sort of its own character. Yeah, it works for me. I mean, apart from some low blows, yeah, but it's sort of been on for a bit too long. It works.
Yeah, I agree. And so then we had Scott Lang coming back by the magic of the mouse that crawled on the
That's
thing.
right.
So it was very exciting. He comes back. He only feels like he's been in the realm for, what did he say, 35 minutes, something like that?
Yeah,
Like
it's sort of like 5 hours or something like that,
5 hours.
maybe. Yeah, like each year was an hour or something.
Yeah. And so he's going and they have this sort of memorial. He's looking, and he sees his name as one of the vanished. But he doesn't see Cassandra. And then he goes back to the house, looks like she's still living there. And how old do you think Cassandra was in the first two movies?
Yeah, I thought she was sort of. Yeah, they add some extra years to her. I think.
Yeah.
I thought she was like 9 years old, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was definitely still sort of primary school age, and now she sort of looks like she's 17, 18.
At least, yeah, she looked
Yeah,
really
they've
old.
added an extra. Yeah, they added an extra 5 years to it. I wonder if that was intentional in terms of either casting or for the fact that like there's a franchise in Marvel called Young Avengers, which
Oh.
she is one that was one of the members of Young Avengers, Cassie. So maybe they're trying to get, if they're trying to get that background, they've cast someone who is sort of high end of the teens spectrum, so they can actually do that down the track when they want to do it.
Yeah,
as opposed to having someone who's should be 12 do it, which 12 is very different to cast someone who's 17. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she was, I think, supposed to be around 14, 15, but she looked way older than that. But anyway, it's a nitpick. It was fine. And he figures out, of course, what has happened. And he gets this idea for going into the quantum realm and doing this time heist. And so then he goes and finds the Avengers. And then that's when they talk to Tony. And then they also, that's when we meet Professor Hulk. So Hulk has found the way to, Bruce/Hulk has found the way to merge his two parts together into like a functioning being. And he's now sort of the Professor Hulk. And what did you think of that?
I didn't mind that because the Hulk when you've had the Hulk around for 50 years, you can't just do the same angry Hulk the whole time. And creators over the years have found different ways of doing different kinds of Hulks. And obviously, Professor Hulk was one of those ones. And the kind of thing where they can still, if they really want down the line, they can do a different version of Hulk, or they can snap the rubber band back and it can be angry Hulk again. So I don't mind, even if it's just a temporary thing in the end, where when they come down the line and they're ready to do, they want to try doing the Hulk movie again or something along those lines, they can bring them back. But I think Professor Hulk was the best possible Hulk they could have for this particular movie. I don't know how it really aligns with the Hulk story that they were doing in Infinity War. It's sort of Hulk was scared of coming out, and now.
Well, it aligns more with what happened in Ragnarok, because he had been able to stay merged for such a long time in Ragnarok.
Oh yeah, true.
But he's basically found a way to make it permanent. In Infinity War, he wanted to make it not permanent. He actually wanted it to come out, and he couldn't get it to come out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that's what was frustrating to him. And so he's kind of useless in the battles and things. And so then we start to really get into this time heist situation, and that whole scene with AMS, like, hey, do you want a picture with me? And the kids are,
yeah, that's right.
What's going on? That was really funny.
I think I thought that was funny, but it went on for a bit too long. I feel like they could have cut one or two of the discussion a little bit longer.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. Discussion. Like the scene with Hulk and the tacos, or certain things. There were little sort of funny bits that maybe that we went on a little long, but so then the time heist starts. So this is now pretty much hour 2, I think. And then it starts, and basically their argument is they present this multi-world theory, and that's like a real thing in physics. Like, I'm way out of my bounds here trying to explain this, but there's this whole theory in physics, quantum physics, called the multi-worlds theory. When you get to a molecular level, like a quantum level, that there's like different versions of everything and different worlds kind of all happening at the same time. It's really trippy, crazy stuff. But basically, the easiest way to explain it is kind of how they try to explain it, where they can't go back and just kill Thanos as a baby, because that would just create a new timeline that wouldn't change anything that had happened in their past.
In their part, yeah. Yeah, because everything's like a branch, essentially. It's like an infinite branch of different possibilities. And so I could eat one sandwich, and that'd be the timeline. But if I chose to eat a different sandwich, it would be a different timeline. And while they might be very similar, they're two different diverging timelines.
Yeah, and so that's what Rhodey's trying to explain, that the new past is actually the present. So it's not really the past, and so you're not getting a new present by changing the past. You're getting or you're not getting a new past by changing the past. You're getting a new present.
Yeah.
And so that's why they have to go back and get the stones, because they know where the stones are in the past, but they have to bring them back because they aren't changing the past. They're changing the present. That's what they're trying to do. And so they're just trying to get the stones so that then they can do a new snap, and then they can bring back the people that were vanished. So that's how they're able to kind of get the whole convolution of the time travel in this version. And they talk about how things like Back to the Future were lies.
There's a lot, yeah.
Because they changed the past, then they changed the present, and that's just not the way. Although I will say that Back to the Future acknowledges that the changes to the past impact the future, that there are kind of these multi-worlds going on, because he sees versions of himself. So I don't know how much it's really changed, but anyway, this time travel. It's fun. It's creative. I love it. It's really enjoyable to me. And I kind of looked at this the same way I watched Doctor Who. I don't know if you watched Doctor Who, but Doctor Who is always playing with time, and that's the whole story. That's who he is. Whether it's in the future or in the past, he's changing things all around. And there's almost no episodes with him facing the ramifications of the changes that he's making.
Oh, no, yeah.
Ever. And so it's just fun. It's just Doctor Who's fun.
Yeah, I think time travel is one of those things. If you think too hard about it, you're just gonna get a headache. And you just let it just go with the flow, and you're fine.
So they tried their best to basically explain that they're creating a new future by going into the past to get the stones. That's the basic idea. Yep. So, and we'll talk about some of the supposed plot holes that I think actually are pretty reasonably explained in my mind, if you understand this idea of two separate worlds all kind of happening at the same time, which is physics and it's real. So anyway, there's different journeys that are all happening here. So the first one is you have Banner, Rogers, and Lang. And Tony. So you have Hulk,
Captain America,
Bruce Banner, Steve Rogers, Scott Lang, and Tony Stark all going to New York City 2012. It's because they know that Loki has the scepter and the Tesseract there.
Yep.
So that's why they're really excited about that. And that was so much fun. I mean, all of these peeks back into the other movies, I just loved. I thought it was so much fun.
Yeah, it's like a greatest hits almost, isn't it? It's of the last 10 years. Because if you go, okay, well, we love the Avengers, let's get some the original movie.
Yeah.
Let's get some of that back. And then go behind the scenes almost.
Oh, it was so fun. And I know some people are like, oh, it was fan service. I thought it was well done fan service. It just, every time it made me smile. And I was like, oh, look. Like, I don't think fan service is an inherently bad thing. I think if you've been invested in this franchise for 22 seasons, it's fun to go back to the previous movies and have, I really enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, especially since this is meant to be like the final of this particular sequence.
Yeah,
it's fine to go back to all these different movies and sort of revisit moments and prove that they're actually part of a larger story, and that they actually matter. By going back to these times, you're saying that these movies mattered. They're part of a larger story, and we're going to acknowledge it.
Yeah. And there were so many great moments in this first section in 2012. When Hulk was complaining about the stairs, I died laughing. That was hilarious. I thought, no more stairs. And then I really loved the Cap fighting Cap. Oh,
yeah, that was
incredible.
I've forgotten, because his costumes evolved so much over the last 10 years. I forgot how daggy the original one looks now in comparison.
It was really good.
It was good though.
America's. That was so funny. I loved it. I really do have. Yeah. It was so good. And then we get the scene where we get all kinds of problems because they get all jumbled together, and Loki ends up with the Tesseract, and then he uses the Tesseract to escape. And so we don't know where he went or what's happening.
No idea at all.
Right.
Isn't there meant to be? Is there still going to be that Disney Plus series? Yeah. Maybe that's going to be about, since he's obviously dead still.
If they come out with a Loki version of Doctor Who where he's going all over the place with the Tesseract, I will die. It will be the most.
I think that'd be quite good, especially since a lot of these Disney Plus shows seem to be very short, like sort of 8 episode, 6 episode kind of things. So you can just do a short season of that. Yeah, you just we go here now, and he gets does his thing, and what he does best: lying, cheating, and swindling people.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to make that part make sense, because I guess there'll just be a whole nother timeline with Loki, and hopefully it won't mess up with any of their plans for what happened with. Hopefully it won't mess up with anything else going on in this movie. But that is we don't know where he went. So we're going to find that out. It's going to be amazing. I'm so excited. And so then Banner goes to find the Ancient One and get the Time Stone from her. And I thought that whole sequence worked so well. It was so good.
Yeah, and it's really good and also explaining the whole time travel element too, and the splintering of the time,
Yeah.
different pasts. So yeah, it sort of added legitimacy to the complicatedness of time travel as well.
Yeah, because he tells her that what Strange did, and that they will bring that it won't affect her reality because they will bring the stone back to her reality. And so she won't even notice that it's gone. And she doesn't want to at first. But then when he tells her that Steven said it was the only way and that he gave up, the Doctor Strange gave up the stone to Thanos, then she realizes that, okay, I need to give the stone. And so that's really, really good. And so they failed because Loki took the Tesseract. So they don't have the Tesseract. And so what are we going to do? And so they decide to go to Steve and Tony, go back to 1970 to get the Tesseract from where it was being guarded by Tony's dad, Howard Stark.
Yeah.
And this was, I think, a really good sequence. So you have, first of all, we get our Stan Lee cameo, probably the last
Yeah,
one.
yeah, I think it is the last one,
Yeah.
and it's very much. It looks very much like what Stan looked like back in the 70s as well.
Yeah.
He had the porno mustache and he
Yeah.
went very 70s attire. And Stanley was very sort of left leaning, especially back in his younger days. So it worked quite well, even though it was a bit more of the crass side of Stan.
Yeah.
But I think he, in good humor, he was very much the kind of guy he was.
Yeah, I think it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was maybe not my favorite, but it was fun. I liked it. So, yeah, and then they have mastered this de-aging look. I thought that
Yes.
Michael Douglas looked so good. I couldn't believe it.
Oh my God, I know. It looked like Michael Douglas circa 1970. I
Oh,
actually Googled it just before and it just looking them up again. And
yeah.
oh, just, it's
Nick,
like they jumped back in time, pulled him in, and
I
yeah.
mean, Nick Fury looked great in Captain Marvel, but then Michael Douglas looked even better. I just couldn't believe it. Wow,
I'm curious,
incredible.
like to see like how they actually do this whole de-aging thing, and I wonder
Mhm.
if like certain people's faces are just easier to do than others.
Yeah,
But whatever they've done with Michael Douglas, they did a very good job.
it really
Well,
was.
excellent job, really.
Yeah, and so Steve goes down there and gets the oh no wait, no, it's Tony. Tony goes down and gets the Tesseract from there, and or I can't remember. No, yeah, Tony goes down and gets the Tesseract, and that's where he meets his
Yep.
dad. And then Steve gets the Pym particle solution from from Hank's office, Hank Pym's office. And so we get this lovely whole scene between Tony and his dad, Howard, that I just really enjoyed. That whole conversation. It was very heartfelt.
It was very heartfelt, and it sort of because he's always had these issues with his father as well, and unresolved issues. It was that sort of like very much about sort of resolving that as well, and they did a really good job at resolving it. It's sort of
Mm-hmm.
also playing into the fact that now Tony's a father as well,
Yeah,
made it even better.
it was really good. And then Steve seeing Peggy through the blinds. I was just
Uh, there wasn't a dry eye in the cinema.
no, it was so because they never got to dance, and we'll talk more about that. But it was so good. And so then they get out, and then we have our next journey is Rocket and Thor go to Asgard, 2013. And who knew that Thor: The Dark World would become so important?
I know it
Yeah.
was. It was. Yeah. Who would have thought?
Yeah,
And Natalie Portman, they used some unused, from my understanding, was some unused footage
yeah,
from that movie, as
yeah,
opposed to letting pull it back in.
yeah. Because there was no way she's coming back just for just for that little bit. I don't think, but
No.
it worked. It felt seamless. And you have
Oh
Rocket,
yeah.
and like I said, that whole scene where he gets Mueller back, and just the emotion that he felt about being worthy, and I just the whole conversation between him and Frigga. his mother was so moving and just lovely, and I really appreciated
It was, yeah.
It was really good.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It was one of those things that, like, you would have thought that she would come back as well,
Yeah,
and have
I
like this
know.
emotional
It
impact on the
was,
character as well. And it was that turning point for him as well to get back on the horse, and
yeah,
like you said before, the fact that he's worthy. And I even like the bit where when Rocket was like, "Oh, what's he doing?" And she's like, "Hey, just wait a second, you'll see." I thought that was pretty
yeah,
good.
it was good. I was like, oh, yay. And so then we also get Nebula and Rhodey going to take the Power Stone before Peter Quinn can do it in 2014. And I think so a lot of people were like, oh, they ruined Thor. I think if anything, I think that Star-Lord was treated worse than Thor as far as like he was just a total noob, a total idiot, like throughout the whole movie. And I mean, he kind of deserves it because he was an idiot in Infinity War, and none of this
Oh yeah,
mess would have happened if he had just done what he was told to do and followed Gamora's counsel. And
oh
so
yeah,
yeah, so they're able to get the stone. Nebula reaches in and her like skin or whatever comes and
yeah. Because she's mostly machine now
yeah,
by that stage, and so yeah, so there's a
yeah,
minimal impact on her really. But I do like the bit with Peter Quill when we got in there doing the whole dance with the headphones on,
yeah,
and the sort of the perspective, the contrast of his perspective of it's quite fun and it's magical with the music, and and then like from the outside,
yeah,
it's almost like watching a Hollywood film when it's being shot versus actually seeing on screen,
yeah,
and just the way he's just like.
yeah. And then
Just
Rudy's
looks like an
like,
idiot.
yeah, so he's an idiot. Yeah, it was really good. It was good. So yeah, and so Thanos finds out that she there are two nebulas. He senses this. Because he can hook up Nebula to his
Yep.
thing. And so he realizes there are two realities of Nebula. And so he starts to figure out what is happening here. And they end up sending the past Nebula to 2019.
Yeah.
So that's where things get a little bit messy there. And then we also have Hawkeye and Black Widow. They go to Vormir to get the Soul Stone. And do you understand why the Red Skull is the keeper of the Soul Stone?
No, I mean, it was. I think it was originally done because they wanted some kind of for Infinity War, some kind of little shock moment, and having the Red Skull back as that was like, oh, I didn't think he was ever going to come back. But I don't know if it was formally explained or explained well why he, of all people, had to be the one.
That's so
But
weird.
out of everyone in the universe, why he, a bad guy, had to do it.
Well, some
But
people were saying,
yeah.
oh, well, it's his curse for being bad is to have to, uh, for eternity, guard the Soul Stone. But I don't know. It just felt so weird because, I mean, I'm trying to remember First Avenger. It's been a while. But he started out human, right? The Red Skull?
Yeah, he was human, and then like he experimented on himself from memory, and
Yeah.
it was the whole sort of Hydra / Nazi kind of World War II kind of trying to beat the Allies kind of experiments on himself, and
Because he's not like Dormammu. He's not like some infinite magical creature.
no, he's
He's a
no,
human.
he's just
Like, what?
yeah.
It's very weird. I don't understand why they did that. But whatever.
Maybe he just won the cosmic lottery. Who knows?
Yeah. And so then we find out that we knew this kind of because of this whole scenes with Gamora. We knew that somebody had to be sacrificed for the Soul Stone, but at least I didn't realize that it necessarily that was the rule all the time or what was happening. But it turns out, so one of them is going to have to sacrifice in order for them to get the Soul Stone. And it's a sacrifice that cannot be undone, supposedly. And they battle kind of back and forth between Hawkeye and Black Widow, who should make the sacrifice. And I know a lot of people had issues with it, but in my opinion, I think it was the right choice, because I think that if they had gone with Hawkeye, he would have been doing it for selfish motives. Like, he would have been doing it for his family, but that's somewhat selfish in the sense it's for him, for his family. And I think that he would also have been doing it as some kind of redemption for all of the killings and other stuff like that. Whereas I think with Black Widow, the Avengers are her family. The people and saving everybody is her reason to live. You know, she doesn't have the family like Hawkeye does. And so I think it makes it more pure to have her do it. And also, I just think it's really cool that somebody with no superpowers is the one that basically saved everybody. And so I thought it was really moving. I thought it was really lovely, and it worked for me. I know a lot of people were divided on it, but how did you feel about it?
I didn't mind it. It was one of those things. I like the fact that there was a debate about it, because they just flipped the coin, or just even I had a very simple conversation. Oh, okay, yeah, I guess so. It wouldn't have been as impactful. And the fact that you thought, Hawkeye was going to be the one, and it sort of flipped your expectations. You didn't know who it was actually going to be. It wasn't going to be obvious. And so then to sort of not know until that final second. It was a more interesting choice, and it was a bit more exciting in that way too. And again, there was another one of those moments where there wasn't a dry eye in the house, in the cinema, or at least my cinema.
Me too.
And it worked because it very much is established at the start of the movie that Natasha had felt like the weight of the world was on her shoulders. She felt there was part of the responsibility that of the failure was from her and the wider team. So she was trying to correct that self, as opposed to if you said Hawkeye, he was just trying to redeem himself for being killing guys and trying to get his family back. It wasn't as noble as hers. Her choice.
Yeah, that's my thought on it, at least. And, I guess it couldn't be undone because, like we talked about, then people only stay. I mean, I don't know how they're going to bring back Gamora. I don't know what they're going to do about that. But the idea is at least that, your reality becomes the past becomes your new reality. And so you can't go back and make somebody undead in that same way.
Yeah.
Unless it's something to do with the snap, I guess. Anyway. But they can't bring him back, evidently.
But it's going to be curious. I'm curious how they're going to end up doing this supposed Black Widow movie.
I know.
Is it going to be set in that 5-year gap, or is there going to be some parallel universe Black Widow show up? I don't know.
I think it's going to be a prequel. And I've heard some talk about Florence Pugh, who was just in Fighting With My Family, some talk that she's getting cast. I don't know if that's true or not. She could have a whole nother role. But yeah, I think that's what they're going to do, which would be, I would die if they had a Budapest movie and we finally get to know what happened in Budapest. That would be amazing. I would be so excited.
It'd be good. Yeah. The only issue I would have with it being a prequel is that it sort of takes some of the stakes away. You sort of know that how she actually does die. So, but no, as long as they get it'd be cool to have a sort of spy kind of style espionage Black Widow movie.
I think if you keep it really contained and you don't have it that much part of the MCU, and then it's just the story about them in Budapest, it would be so fun.
Yeah,
I would love. You and I remember Budapest very differently. If it were me, it would be fun to have to explore sort of both of theirs. You know how have you ever seen 500 Days of Summer?
Yes.
You know how they have that expectations versus reality split screen? And you probably wouldn't be able to do exactly like that, but if you could kind of tell their sides, have both sides of the story, that would be so fun. It would be great.
Yeah, that would work really cool.
Yeah, right?
I think they should do that, yeah.
So anyway, so it'll be interesting to see what they do about Gamora as well, because she was sacrificed to get the stone as well. So what are they going to do to bring her back? They're searching for her at the end, you see. So I don't know how that makes sense. But anyway, sure they'll find some convoluted way that makes sense. And so they all come back, and Tony makes a new gauntlet. And in the past movie, I think it was Infinity War, they had to go to the dwarfs, to the Peter Dinklage character, and get the stuff to make the gauntlet or whatever. and he was just able to do it from stuff in his house. Like,
it was just like a spare glove. Yeah. Maybe Thanos clearly didn't have a spare glove hanging around. So
no.
You had to get someone to make one. So, but Tony, he's got gloves everywhere. He's got spare parts. So it's like he's got like a chest full of Lego essentially.
Yeah.
Just spare Iron Man parts. It's like, oh, yep. Let's drill some holes in there. Yep. We're good to go.
I didn't even think of it the first time that I saw it, and then a friend was like, how did he make his own gauntlet? That doesn't work. And I'm like, whatever. I don't care.
If it's a superhero movie, I guess it doesn't have to make logic.
And then Hulk volunteers to wear the gauntlet, and he does the snap, and it's successful, and that was so exciting. When Hawkeye sees his wife calling him on the phone, that's so cool. It was really, really good. And then we find that the past Nebula, that she brings Thanos and all of the minions and everything like that through time. And then they all get attacked. And that sort of starts this third hour of your movie with this sort of battle is going on. And you have... It's so funny how it like immediately looks like some kind of scene from Lord of the Rings. There's like waterfalls and stuff. Like what's going on? But I loved it. It was great. And I loved the scene where they're, getting pretty desperate. Things are getting pretty bad. And you see those cosmic circles. I don't know what they're called. And
like the portal kind of thing.
Portals, yeah. And all of the Avengers come together, and you see all of the Wakandians. You see Peter Parker's there. You have Doctor Strange is there. You've got Valkyrie on her horse.
On the Pegasus.
Yes. Pegasus. Oh my gosh, that was the best. I was.
You're very right. It's very much a Lord of the Rings kind of moment there. When you think everything's dire, here comes the cavalry, and they're all in their bad. They're all pretty badass.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like Wong is there, like everybody is there, and it was incredible. I was so excited. And you see this, I loved the whole scenes where there's kind of capture the flag with the gauntlet, with the glove.
That was so cool. Yeah.
T'Challa has it for a little while. Spider-Man has it for a little while. It just kind of passed the... It's really good.
It's very dynamic in the way they did that too. Mm-hmm. Just mentioned camera angles and sort of it went up in the air. You don't know who's going to catch it, and then some Spider-Man swings in and grabs it, and then he hands it off to Valkyrie, and you don't know where that's going to go, and it was very exciting.
Yeah. And then Captain Marvel comes, and she just basically like destroys the whole ship. That was really cool. But Thanos is able to basically kind of throw her aside, despite he doesn't have the gauntlet on it at that point. But he's able to he's so powerful.
Oh, yeah. Didn't he? He grabbed one of the stones. He was using one of the stones, the power stones there to sort of, overpower it. But yeah. It's, because they were very evenly matched up until that point. And you go, we can do this. You can do this. Oh no, we can't.
Oh man! And then we get the moment. What did you think of the all-female Avengers moment? I personally thought it was fun. I thought it was harmless. I kind of likened it to the "I am no man" moment in Return of the King.
Yeah. It worked for me.
It did. It worked for me too. I think it, I don't know. I mean, I guess some people feel like, oh, it's just being too girl power kind of playing into that. But I thought it was
go on to SJW kind of. No, I think it's fun. It's a good way to acknowledge it. You have a massive cast of characters, and you need to be able to acknowledge everyone. And that's just one fun way of doing it. Mm-hmm. Is getting all the women together to make sure they're a bit badass, because sometimes they've had a bit of a raw deal throughout these movies.
Yeah.
and to make sure that they don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I don't know. I just felt like where I get a problem with maybe messaging is something like in The Last Jedi, when there's that really heavy handed animal rights messaging when they're on the casino planet. Right. You know, that's the kind of thing that to me is more kind of annoying. Whereas it's just, these are just characters that happen to gather there for a fun, harmless moment. They're not really preaching anything. So
they're not. It's just, unless you're like, there's some people where that they would just be pulling out their hair seeing that, but any normal person will, it's fine.
Yeah. So then we find out that Captain America is worthy of wielding Mjolnir. That was pretty epic. Did you like that?
I really enjoyed that. I knew that had happened in the comics before, but I was definitely not expecting that in the actual movie. It was a lot of fun the way that he actually used as well in combination with the shield, having the shield. It's a new way of sort of seeing some good action, and I like the fact that Thor had two hammers, and then they swapped for a while, and then Thor's like, "No, you take this." I prefer this one.
Yeah, and I guess the different hammers are supposed to have different properties or whatever, but I didn't really care about that. I just thought it was fun. And then Tony ends up getting the gauntlet on, and we get our big epic moment because Thanos has said, "I am inevitable," and Tony says, "And I am Iron Man," and he snaps, and it was amazing. I died. It was so exciting. It was so sad. It was so emotional. Because you would think when he first gets out of the cave, I think he says, "I am Iron Man." Like
he does, yeah.
First movie, yeah.
It's a good callback. It's very much bookends this whole sort of sequence of movies very nicely.
Yeah.
So it's a good callback, yeah.
And then that moment between Peter and Tony when he's hugging him, and he's like, "This is nice." It was so.
It is
so
nice,
good.
Yeah.
It was so good. I loved it. And then we get to Tony Stark's funeral. There is no Gamora there. No. Did you recognize the kid from Iron Man 3?
At the time, I didn't. I saw some article pop up later, and it was the kid from Iron Man 3. But the kid was aged so much that it was, unless you, I don't know, if you were a detective, you have to be Batman to figure that one out.
Yeah, and there were some people who were like, "Oh, I don't know how people didn't figure it out." I'm like, "Shut up."
They're clearly Batman. They're Batman. So.
Batman. That's right. And basically everybody else was at the funeral. There was a nice moment between Barton and Scarlet Witch. Oh, I forget to mention Scarlet Witch's moment with Thanos, which was amazing.
Oh, yes.
That was really good. And they're going to have this Scarlet Witch and Vision show. So
WandaVision, yeah. Well, I have a theory about that.
Oh, you do?
Part of her powers is she can, well, they don't really touch on it in the movies, at least in the comics. She's able to warp reality in certain ways. So I reckon it's going to be some kind of grief related sort of reality warp, where she's trying to recreate reality to a point where she's happy again and the Vision is back. So it'd be some kind of weird thing like that, because it's meant to be sort of inspired by the 50s, is what I've been told.
Oh, really?
Sort of so it's going to be sort of set in this sort of, not quite Leave It to Beaver, but that kind of style of idealized 50s kind of thing. But obviously, there's going to be something more sinister involved.
Okay, because I just wondered, I'm like, are they just going to be making spaghetti and hanging out? Like, what is going on?
Who knows? Obviously, something's going to happen.
Beginning an Infinity War, he's like cooking for her and stuff. But so yes, and then we get some nice. I loved the "I Love You 3000," and then the little moment between Happy and Morgan.
Yeah, that was nice.
I heard somebody say that everybody's gonna be going to Burger King and crying, and they're wondering what the heck's going on. It was so good. Yeah, and I thought Pepper was pretty good in this movie. Probably one of the better. She's good in Iron Man 3, but I'm always not a huge fan of her. She's fine, but I don't know. I thought that she was pretty good in this.
Yeah, she was good. She was more than just the nag.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so she grief very well, and in terms of like how was portrayed, and it was believable as her as the wife and the mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's better, like I said, much better than me just being the one who just nags Tony.
Yeah. And then we get Thor giving Valkyrie the rule over New Asgard. And again, that made total sense to me. I never got the feeling from Thor that he wanted to be a leader, really.
No, anytime he's ever been a leader in the comics, is very much been thrown upon him. It's sort of his expectation, but he doesn't really want it. He does it out of necessity more than any sort of need.
Yeah, I agree. And then he joins the Guardians, which was, I am beyond excited because I didn't love Guardians Volume 2. So I wasn't that excited about Volume 3. But now I'm really excited for it because that is going to be amazing with Star-Lord and Thor, and it's going to be so good.
And James Gunn's back in the fold as well after he does Suicide Squad 2 of all things.
It's a mess. It's a mess.
Oh, it's a bizarre situation.
Yeah, it was. It was a mess. But anyway, we'll see what happens with that. But I'm really, really excited. And if they do a Thor 4, because he just re-signed his contract. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a Thor 4. But
because there wasn't always the chance that he was going to sign it. There was the idea that this is going to be his last movie. But like apparently filming this movie, he decided, I want to stay on. I want to stay on. I want to do more stuff. So it's been exciting to sort of see Thor in the mix. So that we might get another trilogy, or you might get, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to happen, but something's going to happen.
Yeah, it'll be so good. And so then Steve Rogers goes back to return all of the stones, and we get some nice goodbyes from him before he goes back in time. We get a nice goodbye with him and Bucky, him and Sam, obviously, and he can stay there as long as he wants, but it'll be just like a few minutes for them, and and then he comes back and we see old man Steve, and we find out that he basically stayed and had lived a whole life with him and Peggy. And I'm guessing that first of all, that scene with them dancing, it was just tears. It was so good.
It was a great way to sort of end that story as well, his story, because it was I don't say left open, but like it was very much, you got ripped away from him. It was sort of, and I had like, it looked like for a very long time that there wasn't going to be any resolution to that, apart from seeing her on their deathbed dying.
It was the perfect happy ending for Steve. It was so good. And I'm guessing that they'll have to go someplace where they will not come in contact with anybody from the other timeline. From the other reality.
I think so.
They'd have to like go to Cabo or something like that and just like spend the rest of their life. That's what I figured.
Yeah, they're living off the grid or something.
Yeah. Because especially if they come in contact with niece Sharon, that could be really awkward.
Yeah. Well, Sharon might not exist in that timeline.
Yeah, that's true, in the new timeline. Because in Civil War.
A
little awkward there. Because you don't want, aside from the fighting, you don't want one timeline Captain America to meet up with this Captain America. And so anyway, that's just how I figure is they went to Bermuda or someplace like that and just had a good life. I just loved it. I thought it was perfect. And he gives the sword. What am I saying?
The shield. Yeah.
He gives the shield to Sam, to Falcon. And this is in the comics, correct?
Yeah, so both Bucky and Sam have been Captain America at one time or another. So I sort of knew that if Chris Evans was not going to be continuing on with these movies, that it would become a legacy role, and someone would inherit the title. So I had no idea which one, but I sort of knew that it was something like this was going to happen. And I think it was nice that it was actually Sam as opposed to Bucky, because Sam, I feel like, is a bit more of a three-dimensional character, even though we haven't really seen, he hasn't really starred in any movie. but I think he's got the chance. He's got there's a bit more meat on the bones for him to star in a movie if they wanted to do Sam Wilson, Captain America movie down the road, down the line. Because yeah, like I said, they had done the comics, and in the comics, it was they didn't do a very good job.
Oh, okay.
It was in this weird period in sort of comics. It was sort of probably around 2016 election time, and there was a very left-leaning sort of series, but by a guy who was very polarizing in terms of his political views.
Oh, okay.
I won't get too much into it, but it didn't become a very satisfying read in the end. So it was sort of a wasted opportunity when it came to the comics, and because at the same time there was also that polarizing element of I don't know if anyone had heard about the whole Hydra Captain America thing. It sort of made the news a little bit. So it was around that same time, and there was sort of very polarizing opinions.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so we didn't even talk about the whole Hail Hydra thing in the elevator. That was incredible. That whole scene.
Yeah. I found that quite funny. But there was I did see some talk on Twitter that maybe people thought that might have been a bit on the nose with this whole, how much in the comics the whole Hydra Captain America thing had caused a big hoo-ha. But I think it was done in a way that was for laughs, not for like.
It was so good. It was such a fun callback to that scene.
It's not like he's a pro-Nazi sympathizer.
No. Because that scene in in Winter Soldier is so iconic. That scene in the elevator.
Yeah.
So that callback to me was just with what's his name was in there.
Oh yeah, it was
Grillo. And it was so good. And so there you go. That's basically our ending there, and we get the amazing credit scene. I was joking that they basically followed Twilight. Twilight did the same kind of credit scene with each of the characters and the signature and stuff. And but I loved that. It was so good. And I actually really loved not having a true post-credit scene, because I don't know, I just thought that in and of itself was a post-credit scene to me.
Oh yeah, and to start with, how amazing is it you can get so many fantastic actors and legacy actors and actresses in this movie, in this one movie. It was like you got a whole 150 Pokemon almost.
Yeah.
It
really was amazing. They show Robert Redford and William Hurt and
Michelle Pfeiffer,
Angela
Michael
Bassett.
Douglas.
Yeah, I mean, it was just. Yeah, and then it ends with the original 6 with their signatures. It was amazing. I absolutely loved it. And I absolutely loved the score for this movie. I cannot wait to get the album. I thought it was really effective. And when they used soundtrack, when they used songs, it really worked for me, whether it was funny or sweet, tender, or whatever, setting the mood of the different eras that they were in. I thought they did a great job with music. I mean, I'm usually not somebody who's that particular about special effects, but it all looked great to me.
It did.
The only part that looked a little shady was maybe that sequence where Scott becomes a baby, but it was so funny that I didn't care that it looked kind of terrible.
I think you're too busy laughing to sort of really pay too much attention.
Yeah, that was really good. And I don't know. I just thought it was an incredible movie. I thought it was such an incredible experience to be part of, where everybody was cheering and laughing, and I don't know when I will have another experience like that at the theater. I mean, it was just so great. And I felt such a sense of closure, and so few series I feel like are really able to deliver that kind of a thing. I mean, you look through so many finales of shows, series finales of shows that are they try to be too cute, they try to be too clever. And I felt like they just did such a good job with this of ending it right and ending it in not trying to be too cute, not trying to be too clever, just doing something really satisfying, really moving. It had everything that you could want in a movie. It was funny, it was sweet, it was moving, it had action, it had romance, it had everything you could want, I feel like, in a film. And I think it was personally much better than Infinity War because when there was emotion, I felt it and it felt real and lasting and impactful, and that this was something that had consequence,
It
And
does, yeah.
maybe they'll find a way to somehow bring Tony back for a cameo of somebody. Maybe they will. Nobody dies in Marvel, but it felt more emotionally resonant to me. And also even though it was 3 hours long, I felt like it clipped along. I was never bored watching this movie, and I was bored sometimes in Infinity War. Whereas this, I just thought the pacing was so well done. And
it didn't feel like 3 hours at all.
No.
It felt like a regular length movie to me. I didn't realize, you don't realize it at the time it's 3 hours until you actually walk outside and it's dark.
Yeah, I agree. And they keep talking about, when playing your bathroom breaks and stuff. And I'm like, just don't drink anything because you don't want to miss a second of this movie.
No. Well, I have a story about bathroom breaks and Marvel films. I originally missed the reveal of Thanos because I rushed to the bathroom. It's the only time I've ever gone to the bathroom in the movies where I've actually missed something that was a big deal. And I kick myself. And every time I go to see a Marvel movie, or go to the movies in general, I always go to the bathroom and I always say to my partner, I don't want to miss Thanos. I'm going to go to the bathroom.
So how do you think that they are going to work in all of this into Spider-Man Far From Home? Because I guess him and his friend, I think it's Jacob, and I guess MJ, they must have all been vanished.
I think so. I think because there was because it was 50% of everybody disappeared and then came back and they were all the same age. It's like nothing happened pretty much. I think it just they go back to school and they might miss a couple of weeks until everything's organised again. But sort of some people are 5 years, aged 5 years, and some people aren't. So they can buy Peter alcohol and stuff, but.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's back to usual, but it's 5 years in the future.
Yeah.
So there might be a couple characters which they go, okay, they didn't get snapped, so they're not in this anymore. So there might be an excuse not to sign some people back on the movies.
Uh-huh.
I
think that there's at least going to be some kind of flashback or something. And the Russos came out today and said, because it's being recorded on the 5th, and the Russos said that Monday is the final day for spoilers, and then after that, everybody can talk about it. Which I would still, if you're going to talk about spoilers, I would still put spoilers in the thing.
Because there's still people can't make it to the cinema straight away.
But I think that the reason why they said that is I think there's going to be a trailer released on Monday for Far From Home, and I think it's going to have some kind of spoilers for Endgame in there.
I think so too.
Yeah,
there's going to be that, and I think they're going to start from there. They can start talking about what the all these other movies are going to be, because they've got all these slots for the next 5 years already, taken for dates. So they're going to start filling them up soon. So there's no idea. Usually we know these things 3 years in advance.
Yeah.
Sometimes even further. When there's going to be what movies are going to be coming out, but we don't even know what's coming next year. There's going to be one in February or March or something like that. We have no idea what it is yet. So
I think
they're going to start revealing things.
Yeah, I think they might wait until D23 to make some of those announcements, which is the end of August. But who knows? They've been announcing way more in advance than I thought they would as far as Disney Plus. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear about that soon, that we hear about a Doctor Strange 2 and a Black Panther 2 that are filming.
Black Panther 2, yeah. And there's the rumors they're talking about doing the Eternals, which is a bizarre idea. Because even in the comics, they have had collectively 50 comics in the space since the late 70s. Some of their concepts have sort of sprawled out into different, corners of the Marvel universe. But really, the group itself has very little touch point. It like similar to the Guardians of the Galaxy. I guess the Guardians of the Galaxy was a very similar thing. Really.
Well, and then we also
Even
know
readers did really.
They have the potential now to bring the X-Men in, to bring Fantastic Four in. We don't know. I mean, they did announce that the Chinese one, I forget the name.
Oh, Shang-Chi, yes. Yeah. Shang-Chi, so they'll do like some kind of martial arts movie. And there's big talk here in Australia that they're going to be filming it here in Australia, in Sydney. So they're excited about that. But the rumor is it's either that or the Black Widow movie. So
that's I'm so excited.
So there's potential for that. I mean, they've got 3,000 characters in their library they could use. No, I don't think maybe not all of them are potential for a feature film, but I'm sure they can find something. Kevin Feige's probably got a big whiteboard, and eventually he's going to run out of ideas. So it's like, okay, Pete gets a movie. Him.
Yeah, I'm waiting till we have our Captain Britain movie.
Yeah, well, Captain Britain will be getting they just announced Ghost. I was gonna say Ghost Rider, but they've done that a couple times.
Oh yeah, they did Ghost Rider and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And when I was at Comic-Con, Clark Gregg said that he said something to the effect of he wouldn't be surprised if in the future the Disney Plus shows end up merging more with the movie universe than they have up until now. So the thing to get me to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. again.
Yes, I only watched the first episode and a half, and I was like, oh, I'm not getting this.
I just don't have time. I don't have time in my life. But anyway.
But speaking of Ghost Rider, they did announce that there's going to be a Ghost Rider series on Hulu like 2 days ago.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So crazy. Hulu seems to be a place for a lot of the Marvel stuff as well. But I don't know how much that's going to incorporate into the wider thing, or if that's going to be like Runaways or something like that, where it's not really connected to anything. It's just its own jam.
Well, I just think this was such an amazing accomplishment that Kevin Feige and all the team, everybody in Marvel, they just did an incredible job in casting. Almost every casting was great. I mean, you can talk about Terrence Howard, the only, or Edward Norton. Those I really think are the only mistakes in casting. Through the whole 22 movies, everybody else has just been so well cast. I think that they've allowed their directors, they've given them a kit, they've given them a guide, and then they've allowed their directors to show their personality within each of the movies. I think that they've produced just an incredible track record of films. And now leading up to this movie, I just think it worked so well. And I just can't think of when I've had a more satisfying, more joyful, more emotional experience at the theater. I just absolutely loved it. I mean, I'm debating because I loved and I connected so personally with Wonder Woman, but I recognized that it had more flaws than this Avengers Endgame. But those are definitely my two favorite superhero movies I think I've ever seen. I love the original Avengers, but this one was just so great. I think they really, I left thinking, I think I tweeted, they did it. They did it, and it was amazing.
They did it. It was a fantastic roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
The emotional roller coaster, adrenaline roller coaster. It's like two roller coasters in one. So it's scary for me. I don't like roller coasters, but no, it was very fun. It's a fantastic achievement in the sense of shared storytelling as well. To have all these movies come together and have something that's final. It's so rare to have something that's final but still has potential to move on in a shared, and especially a superhero storytelling, because superhero storytelling is very much that concept of that something is always going to keep on going, and they just they might stretch something and change it, but always snaps into something familiar, so it can keep on moving. But to actually have someone end is
amazing.
It's amazing.
And when you think about how many different brands have tried to do the same thing that they've done and failed spectacularly,
yes.
Like the Dark Universe or whatever, where they made
that Dark Universe, that one movie. Yes, I think DC is the closest so far.
closest.
It's
Yeah.
had its flaws, but it seems to be right. The ship seems to be right.
Yeah.
Which is good. I mean, and I'm excited. I hope that it does do its thing, and it seems to be. It's found jam. You know, where
Mm-hmm.
it's going for a different tone. It's going for the right tone at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
It's letting the directors be. I reckon the directors at DC have even more free reign than somewhere in Marvel. As long as they get point A to point B, they're fun doing whatever. Really.
Yeah, I mean, with the exception of Justice League, that obviously was a mess. But yeah,
But I think Justice League, Justice League it had to do certain things. They had to get everyone together, and obviously you didn't get one person's vision as well.
yeah,
You had technically had two people's visions because they changed the directors, and they had two different, very contrasting visions. So it was always going to be difficult. But like we said, we didn't think it was the best movie, but we found some things to enjoy about it, and it was much better than we thought it was going to be. To beat expectations.
Yeah. Agreed. So yeah, I don't know. I just think it's an incredible achievement, and I just loved it. So thanks so much for talking about this.
No worries. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. We covered a ton of ground. So let us know if you're listening what you think about all the different parts that we talked about. And let's have a lively discussion. It'll be a lot of fun. And where can people find you and your website and stuff online?
Yeah, no worries. So you can find me on the website, howlovecomics.com. Talked about a lot of you. So if you've come out of the Avengers movie and you go, I want to read Avengers comics, luckily, I have the thing for you. I have 10 Avengers comics you should read. Go on the homepage, you'll find there a lot of fan favorites and critically acclaimed stories. It'll be some story for you. Lots of tips and hints and all kinds of things. So you can find me at howlovecomics.com. You can also find me on Twitter, howlovecomics. I'm also on Facebook. And also sign up to the newsletter because I do a mostly weekly newsletter. You can keep on track with everything that's happening on the website. I chuck a couple extra things in it too, maybe a competition or a bit of fun stuff. Great. So yeah, check it all out.
Yeah, so you should check that out. And you can follow me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media on iTunes and on YouTube. If you're listening on iTunes, if you can give us your ratings and reviews, really appreciate it. And if you're watching on YouTube, if you can give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, we really appreciate it. Yes, please, thumbs up. And thanks so much again. I really had a blast. And
thanks.
We will try to get together. We were thinking about actually doing some vintage movies analysis.
Yeah, I reckon. Superman the movie, and also some of the Dark Knight trilogy too.
So that could be fun. So let us know what you think of that, and it'll be really great. And we will talk again soon.
Talk to you soon. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.